Law King Wise, my life as a 5%er, a 36 chamber disciple. Yeah, I said that. Peace to the gods. Major bank mentality, Black Cosa Nostra. I had $1 billion visions while in prison, sitting up in the cell thinking, plotting out the mission. Profit with a purpose, gotta say to children, make an impact in the world while getting riches. Yeah, we was labeled as the villains in the trenches, selling drugs, robbing and kidnapping for business. Town to town, state to state, getting money, putting in work, doing dirt, hands muddy, watching mob movies, getting inspired. Until we all billionaires, we can't retire. That James Bond, Aston Martin, yeah, it's fire. Riding down Sheikh Zayed Road in Dubai. Billionaire visions, generational wealth. Gotta break the curses that we've been handed down. Until we reach the top, ain't no time for sport and play. And we ain't gon' never stop till the money got our face. Billionaire visions, generational wealth. Gotta break the curses that we've been handed down. Until we reach the top, ain't no time for sport and play. And we ain't gon' never stop till the money got our face. That's the dream. I paint the picture, the first self-made billionaire who came from prison. Marriage is arranged, interlocking bonds. Link up the genes, keep the blood flowing strong. Handing down the knowledge, safeguard the traditions. Military style weapons for protection. State of the art, high-tech connections. Tailor-made jewelry, diamond mine investments. Real estate in multiple states across continents. Multinational corps and conglomerates. Felons with passports, memberships in resorts. Civil rights back plus gun rights from the courts. Meet a boss, from rags to riches, from the clinks to the streets. I had the vision like ancient Kemetic kings, building monumental structures, no time for sport and play. And we ain't gon' never stop till the money got our face.
Peace. Yeah. So we here with another episode of Mental Wealth. I'm Allah King Wise, also known as Wise Shahid in the business world and the world abroad and things like that, right? It's another episode, like I said, of Mental Wealth. And we had some technical difficulties in getting on today and getting everything set up. But just with anything in life, it's consistency, persistence. You know how they say persistence breaks down resistance. So let me see who we got tuning in, live here on YouTube, live from here, and live on Facebook as well. So persistence breaks down resistance. Okay, let's go. Let's get to it. Mental wealth. What we talking about with mental wealth. Mental wealth, mental wealth. So basically, I would kind of like to know like what comes to mind when you hear mental wealth. Like, what do you think about? What's the first thought that comes to your mind when you hear mental wealth? Because we hear a lot about mental health, hear a lot about that. But I want to know what comes to mind when you hear mental wealth. So let me see what comes up in the chat. Okay. That's what you're saying. Okay, mental wealth. Thinking about the wealth of the mind. Okay, I see that. What else you got? When I think of mental wealth, I think about a peace of mind. Great, that's right. That's right. Yeah, yeah, exactly. A peace of mind. Okay, mental wealth. I like that. I like that. I like that. So I'm kind of looking for something that I wanted to like share. Okay. So the infrastructure of inner and outer wealth. So that's what we're talking about. Mental wealth. It's the infrastructure of inner and outer wealth because everything starts from the mind. The mind is the foundation. Knowledge is the foundation. So when you hear mental wealth and what is being expressed here, we are talking about the ideas that you have, which become assets. Your ideas get transformed into assets. That's what we're talking about. Transforming ideas into assets and assets into cash flow, mental wealth. Um, so we got right here saying like imagine a world where success feels aligned, not exhausted, where clarity replaces chaos and the balance between living and leading is no longer a dream, but a discipline. In that world, people don't just chase wealth, they build mental wealth. They don't just start businesses, they structure lives that lead them. That's kind of like what we're talking about with mental wealth. I know y'all waiting for me to go in like, yo, let's go, let's get to it, let's get to it. So at the core of Wizetics life and business infrastructure, which is the base where mental wealth, the podcast is powered by, right? So it's more than a philosophy, right? So is success is not separated. You know, it's synchronized. It's the understanding that clarity is the new currency. So when I'm saying clarity is the new currency and harmony is the highest form of wealth. So basically, like peace is the highest form of wealth. Having a peace of mind is the highest form of wealth. And I call it like the life biz rhythm, which is it's a natural alignment between who you are and what you build. I'm gonna say that again. It's a natural alignment between who you are and what you build. When you master your inner world, your outer world follows. So we're talking about being empowered with vision. You know, this right here empowers visionaries, creators, change agents. So in a sum to sum it all up, basically what I'm saying is I'm expressing to the world the value of the mind, how important your mind is, how important it is for you to develop yourself from the inside out. You're working from the inside out. And so when you're working from the inside out, for myself, we're dealing with paying close attention to what we think. I'm saying, like, pay attention to the thoughts that exist inside your mind. And that's how it starts right there. When you want to get to the bottom or the root cause behind whatever it is taking place in your life, all you have to do is pay attention to your thoughts. Pay attention to what you think about the most, because it's what you think about the most, which 9 times out of 10 manifests in your daily lifestyle and how you live, the things that you encounter throughout the day, throughout the week, throughout the month. Because sometimes you can be thinking about something and you might not see the results of it take place until some months later sometimes. So you got to pay attention to what you think, pay attention to what you feed yourself as well mentally. So you could be watching something, listening to something, and you might not be paying close attention to what it is that you're listening to or what you're watching. And those things could be planting seeds in your subconscious that grow out in how you may be thinking about something, how you be speaking about something, how you might be acting towards something. And again, your mind itself and your body itself will give you signals and signs of what's the state of your mind. Meaning that if you are having a lot of thoughts that is bringing you feelings and emotions of anxiety, or you are depressed, here's the thing though, some people don't know that they are depressed. Some people might not realize that they are experiencing anxiety. And it's different symptoms, or there's different things that you could experience that could be giving you, basically telling you, okay, this is what it is. One of the main things is having low energy, not necessarily being tired from working, because you can be doing some hard work, you can be overworking, your mind a certain way or your body, and then you can be tired and you can have low energy. But I'm talking about that low energy where you're not motivated to do anything. That right there is like what we're talking about, depressed. So let's look at this part right here, right? It just came to my mind. When you look at stress, you see the RESS, like rest. And when you see depressed, it's that same RESS, rest. And so basically what I'm saying is the key to solving that is having rest mentally, like rest your mind of the thoughts that is coming into your awareness, like your sphere of awareness, with like your mind space, right? So, and I don't want to be getting too technical when I'm here expressing what I express, because sometimes people they can't grasp certain concepts of the mind. They might not be able to grasp certain concepts of holistic knowledge, or they say consciousness and spirituality and things like that. So certain people can't grasp those things unless it's kind of like fed to them through a religious way of like the Bible, the Quran, and usually like these scriptures that describe certain things. And then most people are used to that form of information, because you come up in a religious society, a religious family, and just told, like, God, he's overwatching things, and you hear the terms of being righteous, be truthful, be honest, strive to be a good person. You hear those things consistently throughout religious texts, and it's universal, regardless of what religion that you may be a part of. All of that is there, like common theme. And so with me, I don't really deal with religion. I'm as far as I don't have a religion. I study major religions. I've studied the texts of these religions, and not just to make this about anything like a religious subject matter. Yet, most people in the world, what they base their life off of some aspect of religion. Um, so because they are basing their life off of some aspect of religion, meaning that their foundation of life, where they base their decisions from, is kind of like coming from a religious text, meaning like the Bible, the Quran, or the Torah, Judaism, and so that kind of like set the standard for what they strive to live up to. So it's they might say, well, according to this religion, you're supposed to be this type of person. You're supposed to live this type of way. You're supposed to conduct yourself this way. Your interactions with people should be based off this right here. And that's where you have the religious um, text giving you descriptions of how you should do it. But it's based off of stories of people. So in the religious text, like the Torah, Bible, the Quran, it's giving you stories of people. You talk about Moses, it's Jesus and Muhammad, and is explaining things that they experienced living where they were living at. And then it's like storylines, and these storylines, they have what they call morals to the story. It's like a moral to the story. It's like this story means this, and the way this story is like scripted out. It's a base or a reference point rather that you use to you use it to live your life by. So it says, oh, Jesus said this to his disciples, or Moses said this to the children of Israel, or Muhammad said this to his companions. And, it was about this type of situation, which is a life situation. And then it becomes a reference point. You reference that to say, well, okay, these are things that you can encounter and live in your life. Or you might say, well, this is how you should marry. Man and woman should come together like this. Or, when you raise your children, you should be raising your children like this. Or when you're interacting with another person, this is the way the interacting should be. Right? But it's one other thing that's attached to all of that, which is the struggle, the challenge, the opposition, which they sum it all up and say, oh, it's the devil. And which is there to distract you from being able to live out those standards, which is being a righteous person, being truthful, things like that, right? So what I would say is these things are universal, and because these things are universal, and when I say they're universal, meaning that it's a common theme, it's common amongst people in general, regardless of what religion you call yourself being a part of, or what philosophy of life that you want to live your life by. Is basics, is certain basics that is a common theme. And because these basics exist as a common theme, when you really look at it, within these common themes, you still find a lot of opposition and conflict over the ideologies. So, even within Judaism, you have conflict of which way do you supposed to live it out. So that's why you have different sects of Jews that go about living out Judaism different ways. Then you have Christianity. And even though it's common themes throughout all of the so-called religious texts, within the religion itself, people have conflict over what it is they supposed to be living up to. So therefore, you have Baptist, Pentecostal, the Catholic, which technically Catholic, the Catholics are what became the brand identity for Christianity. They're the first ones that really come up and structure that system that way to say it's Christianity, because technically Jesus didn't teach Christianity. It became known as that, but that's not what I'm really that's not the main point that I'm getting to right here. The main point I'm getting to right here is that even though you have common theme, meaning that it's commonality, it's certain bases, certain things that's universal, even within that, you still have differences. And sometimes these differences don't get reconciled in a way where you can still have peace and you can still have mutual connections and mutual relationship where you can still coexist regardless of the differences. I would say that this is all a projection of already what's going on inside you as a person. It's already something that's going on inside of you as an individual that produces the difference in how you see something from someone else. And not just that part, because that part is a part of life. Like differences is a part of life. Like everybody is not all going to be able to look at everything the same way. You can have a lot of people looking at it this way and a few people looking at it that way, right? But you really will see all the time with everything in life, everybody looking at it the same way. So when you realize that, you could grow to a different state within your own mind where you can still find peace in the midst of differences. That is the basis of mental wealth. That's the basis of mental wealth. Because if you think about wealth on a material level, you think about, okay, all the accumulation of materials that a person has, and they just stored up this material, these assets or these things, like whether it's money, homes, different material things of value. Is different levels to that. So you can have someone who has this amount of wealth, another person may have more wealth than that person. So now let's take that to mental wealth. You have some people who have this level of mental wealth and another person has that level of mental wealth. But the thing about wealth in the context of what I'm talking about, it's an accumulation, like something that is stored up, something that has been grown. It's grown. It's grown. Meaning that it starts from one point and it evolves to another point, which is a higher level from where it was. So let's say that is looked at as being wealth. So, but now let's take it to what we're saying as it's being a state of mind, meaning that mental wealth is a state of mind. So now when you're thinking about that, we're looking at is, to what degree are you able to maintain your peace? To what degree are you able to keep a peace of mind regardless of what you're going through in life? Because sometimes you might be okay, I'm good right now. Then something happens and it disturbs your peace. You're not good at that moment. So you go through whatever you go through. But how long do you stay in that state where you're not good? And what happens is you can encounter a situation or an experience that takes you out of your state of peace in your mind, right? And it could be drawn out, meaning that you haven't came back to a state of peace in your mind. You're going through a long term of not having a peace of mind. You're going through a long term of being stressed. And this is what becomes anxiety and depression. That's where that is coming from. It's long term. Now, you can say, well, how long is long? What is the long? Like, what's the actual measurement when you say long term? So sometimes that can be relevant to the individual, but what I'm getting at is that when it becomes so much so where you are no longer able to function at the capacity that you should be functioning according to the responsibilities that you have. What do I mean by that? I mean that, okay, you have certain responsibilities as an individual, as a man and as a woman. You have certain responsibilities, whether you're a mother, you're a father, or you know you just have individual responsibilities as taking care of yourself, your hygiene, um, going out working, doing what you have to do to make sure that your bills are being paid, um, showing up in your relationships, your brother, your uncle, your nephew, your son, your partner. So what I mean is that you could begin to experience some things that take you away from your peace of mind for a period of time, where if it becomes to where it's negatively affecting your your ability to take care of your responsibilities, that's where it becomes classified as what medical terms of anxiety and depression and stuff like that, right? Because you no longer are functioning to the capacity where you're able to take care of your responsibilities. So this is something that's becoming prevalent. And when I say prevalent, meaning that this is something that's spreading across a large population. And I'm speaking about, okay, black people in general. It's a lot of black people, and not just black people, but I'm being specific with us, is that you having a lot of people facing um mental illness. A lot of people facing things that is got them mentally not in a space of having peace. So, and this is despite what they may say they believe in. It doesn't matter. The person could be believing in, Christianity, could be Muslim, or what he want to call himself from a religious standpoint. Yet individuals still have these experiences, regardless of what they say they believe in that aspect of uh, uh, their foundation of life. And so, what I say is, you have to go and reevaluate what you say you believe in, or how you believe in it. It's different points of contact that you can look at. And when I'm saying points of contact, is different ways of how your mind could be analyzing something. And if you are analyzing it from a certain way, and then the results that you have, which is the results I'm talking about is you stress the fuck out. You got a high level of stress, anxiety, depression. You're dealing with these things. And sometimes a person might not know that they are dealing with those things, because it can creep in gradually, like over a period of time. It can just keep creeping in and creeping in and creeping in, and you might not be aware of it. And then all of a sudden, it just take a toll on you, and then it's like, whoa, right? So ways to really deal with that is, because we're talking about how do you manage and how do you evolve out of negative states, or situations where you're not able to have peace, because mental wealth is peace. That's what mental wealth is. Mental wealth is having the experience of peace within your mind. That don't mean you don't encounter stress. Stress is not always a negative thing. It's the level of stress. It's how you manage stress or don't manage stress. It's how you handle or mishandle stress, which determines if it's beneficial for you or not. Because most people say they hear stress and think that stress within itself is something that's like not beneficial. No, stress is something in its like basic form. It motivates you. It gives you your drive to do. So if you think about the word pressure, and remember I was talking about stress, depress. Like if I had something I could be writing on, it can give you a visual of it a little bit more. But now you gotta like visualize it in your mind. If you think about this right here, right? And I'm not gonna be that much longer up here. Is that when you look at the word depress, as I said, the last part of the word is RESS. When you look at the word stress, the last part of the word is RESS. Rest, right? And this just came to me as I'm talking to you right now. Like, this is how, when you have mental wealth, ideas come to your mind, jewels spark, and it's enlightenment, and it's like revelation spontaneously when you in tune a certain way. Nevertheless, as I said, RESS. Another word that relates to this is press. Press, which is the base word for pressure. So if you just look at press, you got PRESS. At the end of press is RESS, right? PRESS. 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 Pressure. On the mind, right? Pressure on your mind. The other day we was talking, me and some brothers was talking, and the question came up: is the mind, is the brain a muscle? And it was like, I heard the brain is not a muscle. Some say it's a muscle, right? So let's just say it is a muscle. And when you think about the muscles in your physical body, like, because your brain is your physical body too, but just think about the muscle where people like they doing push-ups or they doing pull-ups or they lifting weights, right? And they call it bench press. Bench press. Okay, you down and the weight is down on you and you push it back. It's a form of resistance, pressure. What causes strength to be developed? Because you got muscles, and muscles are considered to be what expresses strength. And keep in mind, it's different levels of that. So it's different weight that get put there. Is different. Is different for different people. Meaning that one person may be able to bench press this amount of weight. Another person may be able to bench press another amount of weight. So the resistance part, meaning that the weight comes down on you and you push back against the pressure, the weight pressure. And when you have pressure on you that you are not used to, meaning that this is not the normal amount of weight that you're used to. And when you build up the ability to resist it and press it back, it breaks down the muscle tissue, the tissue, like it rips it. This is how muscles are developed in the aspect of strength. The pressure breaks down the muscle. When the muscle renew itself or grow back, it develops what they call strength. The strength is relative to the pressure that was applied to it, which broke it down. It broke the muscle down. And then the muscle grow back from being broken down, but it elevate. It grows up rather. Now you're stronger. So you working out and you putting more pressure on you while you work out. You get stronger when you put more pressure there. The more pressure the more weight that's being placed on you, and you're pushing it back and able to push it back, your level of strength becomes relative to the pressure that's being placed upon you. I hope does that make sense? So now let's take a look at that from the mental standpoint, or the brain as being a muscle, right? So let's say the brain is a muscle, just for the sake of making this point. The brain is a muscle. And with the brain being a muscle, what would be the pressure that's placed upon the brain as the brain being a muscle? And using that same motion that I was just explaining, when the weight is down upon you, when you on the bench and the weight comes down and it's heavy, right? And you got to resist that pressure and push it back, which is the course of how you develop strength. Let's look at that from the standpoint of the brain. And what is the pressure? What is the pressure that is placed upon the brain that is heavy, which again is relative to the individual, meaning that 100 pounds to lift might be easy for one person, but for another person, the 100 pounds might be heavy. So what is the pressure on the brain? The pressure that comes upon the brain is the demands of living. And when I say the demands of living, okay, the demands of living is based off of, in order for you to live as a human being, it's certain things that you got to have. It's certain necessities that you must have in order for your physical existence to remain in existence itself. Then there's certain things you got to have in order for you to have a comfortable existence. And when I say comfortable existence, meaning that, okay, if it's cold outside, then you want to be able to have comfort from the cold. If it's hot outside, you want to be able to have comfort from the heat. So, basics of food is what you got to have. Water and food, you got to have that to maintain your physical existence. And in some cases, when it comes to the weather climate, if it's too cold and you're not able to meet the demand of being able to get warm from the cold, sometimes if you get too cold, you can physically not remain as well. So these are demands that's placed upon the brain, right? So when I'm saying the pressure that is coming upon your brain, which can be heavy, which is something that you must resist and press back upon, it's all summed up as problems. If just one word to explain what is the pressure that comes upon the brain, problems. Problems are what come upon the brain as pressure, like weight. Problems like weight. It's like weights. You know how you say weights? You press in the weights, you bench press weights on your body to develop muscle strength. It's the same thing when it comes to the brain. Some things that you experience that could be looked at as a problem, because hold on, wait a minute. What is a problem? A problem is something that has to be solved. A problem is something that you encounter that is considered to be a block or a challenge. It's blocking you from getting from one point to the next point. It's assert you at this point. You're right here, and you got to go to right here. What's in between there is something that you got to get around. You gotta get past this right here in order to get to right here. You at one point and you're trying to get to another point. And in order for you to get to that next point, you have to overcome something in between where you are and where you want to go. You are right here, standing where you are at, from one spot, one position, whether it could be a position in your mind, whether it could be a position in your physical experience, meaning that you got to get food. You don't have any right now. What are you going to do to get food? That's a problem. Like on the base primitive level, you got to get food, right? You don't have any food right here where you are at. There's no food right, and you are hungry. Your body, you're genuinely hungry. It's not like some people just think they're hungry and they're not really hungry right now. But okay, boom, you need some food, or you thirsty. You need something to drink. That's a problem. Whether it's a big problem or a little problem is relative to the individual in their circumstance. Whatever circumstance this individual is in, their situation. It's like they say situational awareness. It's the situation is relative. Like it's a relative situation of whether or not it's like a small problem or a big problem. And it is what it is when you just saying it's a problem, right? Because let's not look at it from, is it a big problem or a little problem, right? Because when we talk about weights, are you saying this is a big weight? Is this heavy? Is this a heavy weight? That's relative. If it's heavy, that's relative to the individual. Because like I said before, what might be heavy for one person might not be heavy for another person. But what we do know is this, from a mathematical standpoint, this is 100 pounds, right? When you say this is 100 pounds, that's no longer relevant. That's a measurement that could be calculated. And regardless of who measure this, the calculation will be 100 pounds. It doesn't have anything to do with what you feel. It doesn't have anything to do with what you think about life. 100 pounds is 100 pounds. Now, if you say that's heavy or that's light, that could be debate. You can debate that because it's only relative to the individual. Is this 100 pounds? Is this 100 pounds heavy or is this 100 pounds light? Think about that. The demand, the problem, the pressure, got to get food. For some people, that's a heavy problem. For some people, it's not that heavy, right? But at the end of the day, food must be got. Some people know how to go get food for themselves. Some people might not know how to get food for themselves. So let's take it back to a young child, a baby, like my daughter. My daughter can't get food for herself. She haven't developed the mental nor the physical ability to really go get food for herself if she don't see it within her immediate environment. Meaning, okay, if she sees something like right here, and if it's something on the table, she can't get it because she haven't developed the ability to climb up and get up. She can't sit in the chair. So if it's something up too high, she can't get it. But if it's right there where like let's say it's right there on the couch, she can walk up to that. You know what I'm saying? My daughter can walk up to the couch and get that. But that's just a small example. I'm just giving you small frameworks that are representations of bigger frameworks, meaning that more expansive, because all go along the line of the same common universal theme. Whether you're a Jew, Christian, or Muslim, you got to do what? Get food. See, you see, that's what I'm saying. Whether you're a Jew, whether you are Christian or a Muslim, you still have to eat in order for your physical existence to still be here. You have to drink, you have to get liquid, you have to get water, you have to have this into your body, whether you're a Jew, Christian, or a Muslim, or whether you don't believe in any religion or have any idea about anything like that. So, does being a Jew, Christian, or Muslim give you some type of edge where you can be able to get food better than the other person that don't believe what you believe? You see, you might don't catch that with the point that I'm making when I said that. But as we continue to go with mental wealth, I'm not gonna be that much longer. These are the things we're getting to with mental wealth. You got a lot of people kicking what they kick. You got people gossiping about this person. You got people talking about, I can help you get this amount of money. I can show you how to do this, which all those things are relevant to somebody, right? And you might get some of that here too with mental wealth. But the key part that we're going to be dealing with here is the mindset. Because if you don't got your mindset, if your mind isn't set, or it's not really based within the right framework that it should be in, no matter what, you're not going to be able to actually experience genuine love, peace, and happiness. You may obtain certain material gain. You might obtain certain situations for yourself that you see to be fortunate. Yet, can you maintain that along with your state of mind of peace? So we are starting at the foundation. We want to get the foundated part right, which is the infrastructure. Wizetics OS like this infrastructure. That's my system where I'm showing people how do you structure yourself? How do you position yourself mentally to be able to acquire all that you need to acquire that takes place on the physical and the material plane of acquisition, meaning that your pursuit of material lifestyle. You got your life, you got your business. Life is business and business is war. And in war, you got to have strategy, tactics, and maneuvers. Peace.